had Gemes Gegresi, a 37-year-old man from the town of Humera, Tigray, Ethiopia. He fled. He ran as the Ethiopian Defense Forces massacred hundreds of Tigrayans, raping women in multitudes in early November 2020. He frantically searches for his family, ardently hoping that they survive. Ferede Liu was a young man from Dansha who had come to the town of Maikadra. As he went shopping through the markets, he was surrounded by machete-wielding Tigrayan youth from the TPLF militia. When he fell down, cut up by their blades, he never got up again. Hi there, welcome to Veritas Populi. In this episode, we will go to Ethiopia, where its major ethnic groups, the Tigrays and the Amharas with the Oromo and other minor ethnicities, have made genocidal hell on earth. We will look at the conditions of the conflict, how both sides are responsible for the simultaneous genocides, the effect of this on the lives of average Ethiopian civilians, and how the international community plans or should plan to solve this crisis. Let us begin at the beginning. The Ethiopian Civil War. After the fall of the Ethiopian Empire in 1974, it was replaced by a communist military junta supported by the Soviets, known as the Derg. This then dissolved in 1987 and formed a new government led by the Proletarian Party called the People's Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. It faced great resistance and caused the Ethiopian Civil War with the separation of Eritrea from Ethiopia. They lost, and the state of Eritrea was formed. After overwhelming pressure, it was replaced by a transitional government and into its current form by the authoritarian Tigray People's Liberation Front, and a semi-dictatorial organization soon became its forefront. It made Ethiopia a one-party state, and for 27 years, Ethiopia was bent into this military rule. After this Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia was founded, more than 100,000 political members were jailed, political dissidents were killed, and when Meles Zenawi, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, died in 2012, protests broke out, wanting a change in the government and democracy. However, there was no parliamentary dissent, as the TPLF controlled every seat in the parliament. Protesters demanded an end to the human rights abuses, but that time had yet not come in Ethiopia. Then, by the coming together of a coalition of opposition parties, and by the resignation of the acting Prime Minister for the coming of reforms, the ruling coalition of the TPLF, or the EPRDF, elected Abiy Ahmed as the chairman, and therefore the Prime Minister of Ethiopia in 2018. Now, the TPLF still remained within the EPRDF coalition and relocated to the Tigray state, where it stayed in power. Then, in late 2019, Abiy Ahmed merged the EPRDF into his own Prosperity Party. Naturally, the TPLF refused to join. This led to clashes between the federal and the Tigray government. In 2020, the first ever general elections was supposed to take place since the removal of the TPLF regime. However, Abiy Ahmed, out of some sort of aversion of fear, postponed the elections twice unilaterally, and then once again indefinitely, citing COVID-19. This enraged the TPLF, who went ahead with the Tigray regional elections, although they too had been postponed. Now, for obvious reasons, the federal government refused to recognize the jurisdiction of the TPLF-led government in Tigray. However, this is not the only reason why the genocide took place, and why there was an increasing distance between the TPLF and the Prosperity Party. Ever since the peace deal in 2018, ending decades of conflict between Eritrea and Ethiopia, for which Abiy Ahmed won the Nobel Peace Prize, there seemed to be an increasing closeness between the president, Isaias Afwerki, which was seen as an enemy by the TPLF. On 2nd November, the TPLF claimed in a press conference that the EDF, or the Ethiopian Defense Forces, meant to attack the Tigray state. However, as of now, the verity of these facts cannot be proved. As it so happens, the Ethiopian Defense Forces did attack after facing a series of attacks on military installations of their own throughout the region. On 4th November 2020, bases in Adigrat, Dancha, Sero, Agula, and the Northern Command headquarters in Mekele were attacked by the TPLF forces. In retaliation, the EDF, along with the government, charged the TPLF with treason. An interim government was declared in Tigray, but functioned only in name, since all the real power still lay with the TPLF. After this, details get sketchy, since the government declared a state of emergency in the region and prevented any sort of journalistic activity. Most information only regards activities of genocide by the TPLF, thereby shadowing any atrocities committed by the EDF. And the main sources of these genocides are refugee first-hand accounts. This war between the TPLF on one side with the Tigray state and the EDF and the Ethiopian state degenerated into a genocide on both sides, with the TPLF against the Amhara people and the EDF against the Tigrayan people. On 9th November, the TPLF attacked Maikadra and massacred its population. On the same day, the EDF attacked Humera and massacred its entire population. On 12th and 13th November, the EDF began an offensive with Amhara regional forces and the Eritrean National Army. On 14th November, the TPLF began firing rockets at the Eritrean capital of Asmara, which missed, Gondar, Bahirdar, and Senafe in Eritrea. On 17th November 2020, the TPLF cut off bridges connecting Mekele. On 23rd November, the EDF encompassed Mekele and threatened to show no mercy even to civilians. After this long timeline of conflicts, we can see that from 16th December, the EDF went on killing everyone in every town which they came across, leaving ghost towns behind, like Tambien. By the end of 2020, the TPLF itself had diminished and only the Ethiopian Defense Forces remained. And then finally, on 16th April, Eritrea publicly acknowledged troops in Ethiopia and began the process to remove them. However, as of now, Eritrea has not removed any troops visibly. Now clearly, both sides are responsible for this conflict, massacring each other's ethnicities, people who have most likely never done anything to them. So what has this genocidal war done to its people, the civilians who wanted peace but were dragged into another war? Beyond the massacres and destruction, the most common and recurring weapon of genocide was used here as well: rape. The number of rapes of women based on ethnicity goes from the official 5,500 or so to the British MP Helen Hayes' 10,000. According to the United Nations Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, people have been forced into prostitution in many parts of the Tigray region with a lack of money and other such securities. Sex, in exchange for commodities, has become common in the ravaged parts. More often than not, rape victims are mistreated and are not allowed to marry. Therefore, by raping women, soldiers effectively remove their ability to reproduce by socially ostracizing them. That is effectively genocide. In April 2021, United Nations aide Mark Lowcock told the UNSC that girls as young as 8 had been gang raped for fortnights. People who tried to help or even witness the rape were shot dead by forces. As a result, women stopped crying for help, which attracted attention. Shows that even in our darkest hour of humanity, we won't endanger others. Yet, it is the same humanity which leads us to genocide. Sexual torture also took place, with unspeakably disgusting acts of sexual violence. Men have also been made to rape their family members, an act which may as well cause more psychological trauma and pain. However, it is not only sexual violence that hurts Ethiopians regardless of ethnicity. Thousands of innocent people with no hand in the conflict have been killed in the 6 months. 2 million or more have been internally displaced. 3 million have food insecurity and need immediate assistance. Communications in the entire Tigray region have been blocked. Telephone lines cut. Internet disruptions are common. 82% of health centers in Tigray are not functioning, and more than 15% of children under the age of 5 suffer from acute malnutrition. Families have been torn apart, livelihoods have been lost, and towns have been utterly demolished by this genocidal war. However, as Sudan takes in refugees from this country, almost 60,000 Ethiopians have crossed into Sudan, and Sudan has taken them in, letting them settle into UNHCR refugee camps. Despite what can be said about the Darfur genocide in Sudan, we must commend their taking in of these refugees. Amidst all this death and devastation, what is the international community doing to prevent the genocide in Ethiopia? Both nothing and everything. Countries like Sudan have been taking in refugees from the Tigray region, acting like a second home. And they were one of the first to react to the Ethiopian attacks as well. Countries such as the United States of America have been providing humanitarian aid. However, a majority of this is based on the wrong side, since the only way to resolve a conflict is by brokering a peace, and not by showering money on the government. The UNICEF and its partners have been setting up many educational camps and funding school and teacher education to help restart learning in these war-torn areas. The Médecins Sans Frontières have been helping out from their Spain chapter, providing surgery and other such services. The UNFPA, with the EWA and the Ethio Telecom, have set up a toll-free hotline for sexual and gender-based violence. The effectiveness of this is in doubt because most people cannot access telecommunication networks anyway inside the Tigray region. The United Nations requires $1.3 billion to support the affected people of Tigray, and as of yet, only 60% of this goal has been realized. You can help change that. You should donate at www.crisisrelief.un.org/d/Ethiopia. Every contribution counts. The lack and the reason of relative ineffectiveness of this aid is a lack of international attention brought to this cause. The UNSC has failed to even make a statement about the Ethiopian genocide after holding meetings about it twice in March and April. The conspicuous void of UN peacekeeping forces in the region have accounted for the lack of civilian protection campaigns and other such United Nations aid. The ever-continuing massacres go on, and the EDF has gained impunity. And in all this, Abiy Ahmed still has the Nobel Peace Prize. So what can we do? Donate to the United Nations Crisis Relief Fund, which requires urgent assistance. We must urge our nations to place international pressure on Ethiopia. The UNSC must make a decision regarding Ethiopia soon. Millions of lives are in danger, and thousands more have already perished. We must spread the awareness and warn the world of what is to come. We must be aware. Support us at Veritas Populi in spreading the facts, the flip side and the face of things, by liking and following our podcast. Share it with your friends and family and spread the truth, because the truth belongs to the people.